You two were shaking your head and exasperated.
Yeah, 2008, President Bush gave him the Presidential Medal of Freedom because he had helped solve for AIDS in Africa. And here we are all turning against him because of a pandemic that was politicized, and it is disgusting.
Rand Paul also is just a troll. Like, he has some personal vendetta with Fauci that we don't know about. I don't know, maybe Fauci's the other neighbor that wants to beat him up.
I think, though, there's some real questions about how Anthony Fauci acted and what he said.
Why was he in charge? Why was the President of the United States, Donald Trump, not in charge?
Mick, you were the chief of staff at that point in time.
Yeah, because, and I'm sorry, I'm sitting here, I want to jump through the camera, because Anthony Fauci was lying to the President of the United States. Period. End of story. I was running the coronavirus task force before Mike Pence took over, and Tony Fauci lied to the President of the United States, told me to go on television and tell people not to wear masks. I did that, okay? Later on, he said it was to protect a shortage of supply in the masks. He never told me that. He never told the President of the United States that. He never told the President of the United States that it's not the typical response to shut down an economy. That's not the typical response, by the way. The typical response is to identify the most at-risk populations and isolate them so they're safe so the rest of the economy could go on. He didn't tell the President that either. He lied to the President of the United States. Where I disagree with Rand is this. I'm not sure that's against the law. I'm not sure it's a felony. I'm not sure it's a crime to do that. If there's any justice in the world, Tony Fauci will be cast to the ash heap of history for leading to some of the worst mistakes that the United States federal government has ever made. But I'm not sure that by itself gets you in jail.
No, but he also has a really hard time with what he did with anthrax as well, which no one brings up anymore. And he was in charge when we had our anthrax scare.
I just have a question for you guys who were there while it was going on. Do you really believe he lied, or do you...
I think Mick just laid it out.
Yeah, I mean, like, we didn't know.
Can I just say this? Beyond what Mick said, last week in front of the coronavirus task force, he said that it is not likely based on scientific data, this notion of a 6 feet separation. Years later, we find, I mean, hey, I'm making it up, trust the science. But there was no science.
It was a novel virus.
That's lying.
It was a novel virus. So, like, do you think
he was... don't lie.
Was he lying, or was he basing it on what information
he just said?
Mick, come
not
on.
likely based on scientific data.
Mick, what would you say?
I absolutely believe that Tony Fauci believed that he knew better the President of the United States and that he was more prepared to make the decisions. Instead of giving the President the best available information and letting the President decide, he decided. And that's where I think he failed. And he failed the nation.
Are you okay with
doing so.
To the Democrat, are you still okay with probing and getting answers?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all about it.
I think it's necessary, but like I just don't understand why the President of the United States doesn't take any responsibility for not investigating in China. He was the president. He could have poked and prodded. They would have asked President Obama to do that, and we did, stop Ebola. So I just go back to this, like, it's always Dr. Fauci's fault. It was probably an administration issue overseeing a novel coronavirus.
The Democrats were blaming Tony Fauci.
Mick, there's probably some folks at home who are saying, you know what? Anthony Fauci wasn't the president of the United States. Donald Trump was the president of the United States. So doesn't blame... Okay.
I just don't get this. I mean, the guy is...
I mean, that's a reasonable question, no?
The president of the United States relies on the head of agencies to give him the best. And when the guy who's the doctor and says, this is the basis of it, and trust me, I'm science, you believe him.
If Joe Biden said that on immigration, would it be enough?
Comes to him and says, Mr. President, the intelligence says this, we need to act. You're going to trust the guys that are the experts. Fauci did not base what he decided or what he advised the president in scientific data. That's a fact. He admitted it under oath in front of Congress last week.
But no one can be an expert on a novel virus. It's a new thing.
Then
so
say it.
Of course, we're going to
say I don't know.
We're going to Monday quarterback the day after.
Mick, last word.
No, I think he failed. I think Sean's right. And how often do I say that? He failed as a staffer. He thought he was the person best in best position to make that decision. He's an unelected bureaucrat. He should have laid the options out for the President of the United States. He never did that.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for watching. And make sure you go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.